Welcome to the Como Factor podcast, where the conversations are authentic, the stories are inspirational, and people-centric transformation is always on the agenda. I'm your host, Christine Strobush.
And I'm Sonal Trivedi.
Today's episode is sponsored by the Como Club. With the holidays right around the corner or the next big occasion, it's time to start thinking about gifts. What do you give to the person who has everything? This year, give them an experience that they will remember forever. Murder at the French Farmhouse is a one-of-a-kind murder mystery game created by Como. This premium game transforms dinner parties into thrilling, immersive experiences that people will remember for years. Visit thecomoclub.com and use promo code PODCAST to get 15% off your order today. Listeners, I am so excited to introduce you to our honored guest today, Noël Ellison. Noël is a partner at KPMG who specializes in helping organizations manage the complex tax and business process issues that arise when sending employees on overseas assignments or when they travel to work outside their home jurisdiction. Noël is a graduate from the University of Texas at Austin, where she studied international business. When it comes to international business, tax, leadership, and music, Noël breaks the mold. Her stories of transformation, both personal and professional, will inspire you to action. Not only is Noël a successful executive, she is a rock star and loving mom. Welcome to the show, Noël.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me as your guest.
Noël, can you tell our listeners a little bit more about who Noël is before we get started?
Sure. I'm sure, like a lot of your listeners, I wear a lot of hats. I know Christine Strobush directly because I'm a tax partner at KPMG, and I have lived in the Dallas community for 25 years and worked with an array of clients doing global mobility work and interacting with executives who are from all around the world.
That is really cool. I know Christine's spoken highly of just getting to know you as well as the women's executive group that you were part of. Can't wait to hear a little bit more about your professional transformation. But maybe before we jump right into your transformation stories, one question that we love to ask our listeners is, if your life story were to be published in a book, what would that book title be? And what would the book cover say, Noël?
You know, I was thinking about this on an airplane and it didn't come to me immediately. I had to really dig. But then I think I kind of got to a point where it was something like, no regrets. It was all worth it. Kind of one of those things where I can't disconnect the bad experience, the learning experiences from the great highlights of my life. And, you know, if I look back, it's all complete, and I'm here with you today because of all of it.
That's incredible to hear, because oftentimes, when we sit down with just anybody, to have conversations about kind of the life journey, a lot of people talk about their highs and lows. And sometimes, we all wish we could have done something differently. But I love the title, No Regrets. It was all worth it. So sounds like there's a couple stories there. Tell us some of your life goals that you've got today before we kind of talk about, the journey that got you to where you are today.
Sure. You know, when I think of goals that I have, I don't really think of them as conventional goals. Like, I wasn't in college thinking one day I'm going to be a CEO, or, I love hiking. One day I'm going to climb Mount Everest, that are these kind of finite and, destination oriented goals. But I set goals for myself that are more like continuous learning or continuous creativity. One of my hobbies that I developed in the last 5 years is music. And I want to be a rock star. And maybe that it's not a destination, but it comes with like learning how to sing and learning how to play guitar and then building a band, and what does it mean to go out and gig, and how do I do stage music. And so there's just all of these different areas that I continue to push myself into. One of the things that one of the reasons I did get into music is because I wanted to be a better stage performer, because I know that in a leadership position, I'm on stage and I'm presenting, and I wanted to be fluent with my body language and my voice and my level of confidence. And I found a really nice intersection there.
Okay, that is so intriguing because professionally, I mean, you're a partner that has a specialty um, on what most normal people don't really understand that well, which I believe is in the tax space.
Yes.
Whereas music is the other extreme. It requires so much creativity, um, outgoingness, the ability to read a room. Um, how did that come about?
Well,
What
it's interesting because, well, first of all, I'm not a traditional accounting school graduate, accountant, tax person. I came from a background of international business and a love for language and globalization. And numbers, when I was in business school, numbers came really easy to me, and the tax logic that we use. But my job really is to build relationships and to solve problems that revolve around tax and people.
Mhm.
So I've always been an outside the box thinker. And there was a moment where I was a little, 5 years ago, where we have a KPMG band in Dallas, which I love. And they did one song before we had a big town hall meeting. And I looked up there and I thought, I like singing. I want to do that. And I tried out for the band and they let me join, probably because I was a partner, not because I had any talent, but they were very welcoming. But then I quickly realized that I needed, just like I was when I started in tax, 25 years ago, I needed lessons. I needed somebody to train me. So I started taking lessons. And there's this whole world of adults that love music and that want to learn and get together and make music together. So it was a little bit more of community, and it fueled my passion to do that. And yeah, so I was able to kind of weave those threads together. And now, so our KPMG band, we perform at our internal events, at our town halls, at our holiday parties, all of that. And it's a good balance of left brain, right brain activity. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. That is so cool. And I have no doubts that about you achieving your rock star status. You probably already are. You're probably being very humble with us.
It's a journey. Can talk about it more and have a lot of great selfie pictures about it than I sound. But I surround, like I do at work. I surround myself with talent that make me seem better and bigger than I am. How's that?
Yeah. Sounds like you're a great leader. So, Noelle, tell us about a personal transformation journey that has really kind of had a major impact on you and where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. So this goes back a few years, probably 10 years or so. I was a young mom balancing a career. I was probably 10 years into my career, um, and raising my kids as a single parent. And one of my sons has some needs, some exceptional needs, and really took a lot of my attention and time and focus and family. And my boss was wanting me to go into leadership. And she's like, Noelle, you're ready. You can do it. And I kept pushing her off, kept saying, my son needs me. I need to do this. This is the only way I can do it. I was stressed enough trying to meet my son's needs, and balance the household. Uh, my boss was always my biggest supporter. She's like, okay, I'll wait. I know this too shall pass. But then there was a moment. There was kind of a very crystallized moment in my life. And it wasn't, one incident. It was kind of a culmination of many incidents that happened. So my son was at kind of a critical point in his care and needed significantly more help. My former spouse, who was providing, a significant financial support for all of us, we were a team still, had an extreme health event, and that could have really been fatal. And I found myself, newly single. And I mention that because, I think, when you're in a relationship, you feel like you're a team. And when you're not
Mm.
in a relationship, you feel that the weight of the world is really on you. And I kind of sat there in that moment and I realized that, the financial support of my family was at risk. Um, I had myself to rely on only, and my son was at this critical point in his care where I could no longer, I had given everything of myself and that still wasn't enough. And I needed to make a really transformative decision about what direction I was going to go. And all of these things involve like your financial situation, your sense of well-being, your sense of caring for your family and being that support. And I just took a breath and I was like, you know what? My job has been the most stable thing in my life and I can do this. And so my former spouse, thankfully everything worked out. Had a really heart to heart conversation and said, I'm going to take my career forward. I need your support with the family, with the kids. I found like a longer term placement. It ended up being a very short amount of time, but for my son, so that somebody could care for him. And I went to my boss and I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to go into leadership. And the transformation I made was not just, yeah, I'm going to go back to work full time and do a different job or be a boss. I wholeheartedly transformed myself. My mindset was different. I was thinking clearly what I wanted to do. I changed my wardrobe. I went back to the gym. I had realized that I had neglected my own health, which I think is common for a lot of high performing females, that they put their family and their job and everything else in front. And I had let my health go by the wayside. So I got back in the gym. I felt good about myself. I paid attention to my diet. I looked at my professional image. I revamped my professional relationships. I think, Christine, honestly, it was shortly after that I joined the ELIW group where we met, and I joined a board of directors, and I set out to gain skills and to really embrace this evolution, um, inside and outside. So,
I know so many of our listeners can probably resonate with your story. I myself, was a single mom in a similar situation, going through that. And oftentimes we feel so guilty, right? Putting that professional part as a priority because we feel like we're not enough, we're not there for our family or whatever, the commitments are for different individuals. But it had to be really tough, to be able to get that clarity along the way. What kind of emotions, did you encounter as you were going through this
well, I
realization?
Well, I think what I found is that I probably was not emotionally as sound as I needed to be. But again, that was part of my transformation is I had let the circumstances of we are women, so we know we can be mothers, but that doesn't mean that we're fully equipped to deal with every situation that our kids present us with. And so I had a lot to learn about that. And I think what I realized is that I was so emotional at times, and that I needed a little bit more separation as opposed to suffocating the situation, thinking that I could handle it on my own or with the resources I had immediately in front of me. And, you know, that's a humbling experience for a high performing person who has already made it as far as we have on our gumption and our intelligence and all of the skills that have brought us up to where we are at a given moment. And why this moment was so critical is it was the realization, I call it hitting the wall. And in leadership, I see my team do this, where, and what I mean by that is the tools in your toolbox are enough to get you this far. But in order to get over that wall that you've hit, you got to get some different tools.
Yeah.
And I realized that part of that was I needed to deal with my, emotional well-being, physical well-being, all of that, and to really break kind of the cycle that I was in and find something new, a new way to solve the problem. And 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 not be so burdened by the emotion, which it did help when my son was at a care facility for a few months. I was able to deal with the depression I was probably in, and feel come out emerge from that as a more capable mother and a more resilient person as a result. And I think it was holding me back, but both personally and professionally. So yes, I was still doing my job. I think I was not doing it effectively. uh,
Yeah.
but I think one of the best things, and thus the book title of No Regrets, um, I gained so much more empathy and so much more calm and patience, um, through that experience, that it helped me as a leader to be able to turn that around when I see other employees that might be dealing with, grief from something that's happened in their life, or their lives adjusting in a certain way, or them struggle, being super high performers for the first 10 years of their career, and then all of a sudden they're at a plateau, and they're treading water.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, and you must have some serious stamina to be able to maneuver through those circumstances. Tell us a little bit more about once you found that clarity that you needed to undergo this transformation. You talked about just changing your lifestyle from all perspectives, mentally, physically, emotionally. You talked about even your diet. How did you get clarity about, all of these different elements that you needed to basically look at one by one?
Um, I think I started. It's like being on a hike in the forest on your way to a summit where you have a clear view. And I was stuck in the forest on a trail with my head down, looking at my feet, taking one step in front of the other, but not really clear what the direction was, just knowing that I was moving forward. And then, when I'd finally gotten to the top, meaning I'd made simple decisions about I do need to look at my wardrobe and my image and my health and my emotional well-being. And I got to the top, and I'd done all of those things. I felt like I looked back at the perspective I had about what I was before that transformation. I was like, wow,
Hmm.
really, really needed to do that. Now, I'm not saying everything is perfect and I'm this glamorous, model shaped person with, with no emotional baggage. Um, we all have something to work on, but it was such a self-determined transformation, and I knew that I could break it down to steps, like, uh and then just focus on those things and not be overwhelmed by the idea that I needed to be a leader, the perfect, and how do I do whatever. I just broke it down into steps, like learning to play guitar. You don't pick up the guitar and just play it. You learn how to play a chord, you get your fingers adjusted, you develop muscle, all of those things, and then eventually maybe one day you play guitar. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, love it. So it sounds like you also took a lot of ownership along the way once you had that clarity of what needed to be done. I'm sure, like just being human, right? There are a lot of things that happen. Sometimes we have setbacks. Sometimes, other circumstances occur that are out of our control. Were there any challenges that came across, as you were going through this journey after, you kind of went down this whole transformation?
What I thinking about it right now, probably one of the things I glossed over is the trust that I needed to rebuild with my team.
Mm,
And not taking for granted that someone who's going through an emotional crisis or a tough period in their lives loses a little bit of you know should I call her, are they there, is she gonna be okay, can I do this? And I really, it's rebuilding that image and the accountability and knowing that I was going to be there for the team, improving it day in and day out by showing up and being stable and staying on a path and being there every day, right?
mm.
Um, and I'm lucky that I have, an organization that stands behind me through all of those things. I think without that support, both of the team that I've developed over the years, as well as the leadership that afforded me the opportunity and the patience to transform, that I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, I think the community that we're surrounded by is so important. And oftentimes, they're also looking at us, right, in terms of not only cheerleading us on, but in a way, I think, again, we all like go through tough times and we all, can relate in some way, shape, or form. But I'm sure you were modeling, some behaviors and just kind of the transformation in real time. They're probably able to see it, step by step as you were going through all of this. And especially when you talk about kind of the fitness aspect, those are physical things that, we can all observe, right, with our eyes.
Mhm.
And so I'm sure that was really cool for them too, to be able to see you through that. But it seems like there are a lot of unique qualities that you possess, Noelle. How did you discover, over your transformation journey, what was unique about you, and how did you leverage that in a meaningful way to really help you attain some of these goals?
I think one of the biggest gifts I have is my level of resiliency. I don't know where it comes from. I say it's my people from that immigrated here that, gave me that gift generations ago. My Texas spirit, right? And but I don't I I truly think that's it. And when you're faced in a moment of uncertainty, like, I'm not the type of person that is just gonna curl up in a ball and cry. Although maybe I did that, and maybe I had a glass of wine or two along the way. But I think, and Christine, when we were going through our leadership program together, there's some great Harvard Business Review articles. There was one that really resonated about resiliency, and
Hmm.
it was an eye-opening, it it explained as much as it did shine as a mirror to maybe what I was experiencing. And I'm not saying I'm the toughest one that I'm going to go on a reality show and do, extreme sports or anything. Um, but having that spirit of knowing it's going to be okay and knowing that I can push through, and um, the sun will rise tomorrow, right?
Absolutely. I have really enjoyed hearing a little bit of your personal transformation backstory, Noelle. And I didn't see all of those things, but I can definitely say that meeting you in the executive women's program. I think we met in 2016 and then
Yep.
graduated in 2017, right?
Yep.
So it's been a few years. I definitely see the resilience and taking that reflection and the analogy you used. And I'm sure our listeners are picking up on this. And we always hear that saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. But you're right. You're on this journey and you're hiking up the mountain. And as you get that elevation, your vantage point becomes greater and you can see, more holistically. So it's really powerful. And as women, we're always having to juggle the personal and the children and the career. And I think you just articulated that so well. And it is not easy to do. but it's really neat. So as your friend and someone who's known you for a few years, that just makes me smile to see what you went through. And I think you are kind of a bit of a fashionista when I look at, the Noel that that I see. So, okay, so if let's use our, this program where we met and began our relationship, and you've gone from that to now you're leading this program, and I can't even imagine all these women every year that are coming through, and you're impacting in addition to your quote day job. Can we talk a little bit about that transformation? Because here you spoke about, okay, I'm gonna step in, I'm gonna become a leader. Now you're a partner. Like, how
Mhm.
did you do that? How did you do that?
Part of me, it's like, well, how did I get on stage and sing my first song in front of an audience without a music background? Some of it is I just believe that I can do it. And but but I don't take for granted that I believe that because I've been so supported through so many things for so many years. I feel equipped to stand up in front of the leadership group and to lead a program um, like the one we went through, Christine, because one, I believe in it. I
Mhm.
believe wholeheartedly in the mission. I've seen how it can transform mindsets and set people on a different course. And I also feel committed to pay it forward, that I'm both a steward of the program, and that I owe it to those who came before me and invested so much in me to create that same support and feeling of belonging for those who are coming up behind me.
Mm.
It just
That's
makes it easy. Makes it easy.
y- yeah, yeah, for sure. So, huge impacts, and I just, coming around, what was it, last month, within the last this summer we came up. I'm trying to remember, when was that date. Um, it was
In
just
August.
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 Yeah, okay. Oh my gosh, time flies. Okay, so it wasn't but a month or so ago, when coming back and seeing the program, and it continued to evolve, and just, this program, we're not, I know this podcast isn't just about the program, but I think, a message out to ladies, female leaders. I've seen leaders like you, Noel, that really have the support, you gain the success, and then you pay it forward. And then, there are those that kind of knock women down. And we want to encourage, be the kind of woman who helps others. And really that's what this program is about. And that's what we stand for here at Como, as well. So it's beautiful, Noel.
Yeah. Well, I think I've been really fortunate, not only, and I don't know if it's because of the accounting profession. I mean, we sell integrity. Like that's we don't
Hmm.
sell widgets, we sell integrity. We are signing off on financial statements and committing to, making sure we're doing things right. And I think that blends into our culture, and that we are all about promoting people and making sure people are okay. And I don't say that as a plug for KPMG. I say it because I have the good fortune of happening into this career and happening into an environment that's always been supportive. And it didn't occur to me, as I sat by some of the other women in the program, not just when we went through it, but also as I helped sponsor other classes, to see that that's not always the case in all industries and in all work environments.
Yeah.
Um, that maybe smaller organizations don't have a formalized culture or policies that they run the organization by, or that the focus is so much on the bottom line and less about the culture or the people development side of things. So again, I feel like I'm a beneficiary, and what you do with gifts like that, it's like the Spider-Man motto of being responsible to with great power comes great responsibility, right? And I really we need to do something to transform the things that are in our purview. Like I said, I don't have the goal to be a CEO, but I feel quite content with the leadership role that I have. And I feel like I can make an influence, not just with my team or in my work community, but also in my local community or in my band community or whatever I'm involved with. And I think it's a mindset and a way of life, and it helps me intrinsically feel like I've healed from my transformation, like the trauma that caused my transformation. It helps me wake up every day with a really positive attitude, and to just greet people with a smiling face. It's also a little bit of that Mary Kay inspiration of,
Hmm.
know, you always everything's always going to be okay, and you just when you ask how you're doing, it's always that you're doing great. And when you believe that, and when you live that, and when your demeanor reflects that, I think that we're all happier. And I don't mean cover up the pain that you're feeling. I think we're evolved a little
Right.
bit beyond the Mary Kay thing, because I'm more than happy to share all of these experiences, and the experiences that I'm sharing today with you are no different than the stories that I tell in different capacities with the leaders I'm trying to develop, and understand that they're hitting the wall. And it doesn't have to be some earth shattering earthquake catastrophe that inhibits their growth. It can be they're worried about their dog that's sick. Whatever
Hmm.
trauma that they're facing in their life is meaningful because it's the perspective that they have of the trauma and the pain that they're feeling, and what do they need, and what tools do they need to grow from that or to overcome it, and yeah, rise above.
It's those are it's really powerful, and it's evident that you're the kind of leader that genuinely and authentically cares about the people around you, and that people sense that, and you're gonna, I'm sure, in your organization have tremendous loyalty because you really do care. I'm wondering, Noel, would you be willing to share? Have you had an experience where you felt the imposter syndrome? Here you are, you're climbing, you're reaching this point of becoming partner. Have you ever felt that?
Oh, yes.
Like, talk to us about that.
You know, I I work with a group of 2,600 partners. That's a
Oh,
lot of partners at
it's a
KPMG
lot.
US.
Yeah.
So even though the title suggests that I have made it to the top, it really there's a whole new infrastructure and org chart within my partner group. And I'm constantly put out on the front line to do bigger things, um, and scary things, things that are scary. I'm going to go back to a scary situation I had when I was younger, and then I'll give you an
Hmm.
example of what I had.
Okay.
So I remember when this is before I was a leader, and I managed a client, and my boss was always supportive. And, I decided early in my career, I was going to learn to golf because it was good for business. And plus, I like golf. Plus, I like being outside. And who wouldn't want to spend 4 hours outside in a beautifully manicured golf course? Um, and I was always comfortable golfing with my girl buddies and all of that. And then I found out that my client was coming in town. We had a meeting one afternoon, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going golfing tomorrow with this male partner." And I was like, "Well, I want to golf with you guys." And I literally had to invite myself to golf because I don't think it occurred to them that, one, I wanted to golf because I'm a girl, or that I want to golf because you know, um, maybe my level of experience. And so I went. I wasn't a great golfer, or I was less of a golfer, even less of a golfer then. And I went to a club, and I had to put my big girl pants on and get out on the golf course and act like I knew what I was doing, and play. And I was, the only female on that golf course that wasn't serving drinks, right?
Wow.
And I mean, it was nerve-wracking the first 3 holes, and then I finally settled in and everything. And for me, that was a really big deal. Nowadays, I would do it without any qualm at all, because I have a lot more
Mhm.
confidence and experience putting myself in those situations. Um, no differently than, like I said, coming back to my example, standing on a stage, singing a song in front of an audience. And if I can do that, I can do anything. And I was with one of my clients this year, and I typically prepare individual income tax returns for a lot of executives. And in this one situation with a client, I'm both the primary contact for their individual tax return, but I also represent KPMG and the myriad things we do at this account. And I had access to this CEO to go ahead and, because I knew him through his tax return preparation, but also asked him or offered a meeting with one of our senior executives. So I was carefully crossing or straddling that line of something that was very personal to him and trying not to betray that personal relationship to make a business relationship. And that was really uncomfortable for me to make that ask, but I did it. So one of our very senior leaders at KPMG met with the CEO that I facilitated. And here I am still feeling like that little girl on the golf course, right? Still putting my
Yeah.
big girl pants on. I was terrified. And I had to walk into the boardroom with just the three of us and conduct facilitate the meeting and make sure that it I knew what talking points that a CEO would want to talk about in the context of running his business and figure out what asks we want to make as an organization to ask him to introduce us to certain individuals. So it was terrifying. And I do feel like I'm an imposter, but you know what? Back to my other example, I'm not going to curl up in a ball and cry because it's all going to be okay and the sun will rise tomorrow.
I see your mindset. I see the way it's working in these scenarios. You're taking that ownership and just really trying to be optimistic, but in a genuine way. And I love that. We all face imposter syndrome at some point or another, and probably many times through our career. And I think courage is not the absence of fear. It's doing it anyway. So even if there's a little bit of doubt or a little bit of fear, walk into that boardroom and have that meeting and play golf. Although I have to say, I'm not a golfer. My husband really wants me to be. I think it's awesome that you are. So that's inspiring me, and I probably should at some point. I have not picked that up yet, but I love that you do.
Yeah, but you're right, and I tell the story the same way in those same words that you put it. It's feeling fear and being comfortable to feel fear and still
Mhm.
walk forward and not let it be a crippling experience. And so, there will always be times that you're going to feel that fear. The more you put yourself in a situation that's out of your comfort zone, the more comfortable you're going to be feeling that fear and knowing that it's going to be okay. Quite frankly, the life experiences that I've had with my son and the uncertainty with my son's health and well-being were helped me with that. There were a lot of times that I was just really out of the water in that, and that's why I can't deny those personal life experience and completely separating them from my professional life experiences, right? They all
Mhm.
go hand in hand, and I feel like an authentic leader. I feel like I'm a wholehearted person when it comes to running my business and managing my relationships, and it's my professional accountability and the conviction I have with replying to an email or delivering high quality service or making sure I'm there and knowing that it stops with me. It starts and stops with me. I'm going to make sure everything's okay.
Beautiful. So I got a question for you. I'm pivoting over to your music story because I'm fascinated. I'm so fascinated by that. So we're talking about courage, we're talking about resilience, we're talking about all these things. What was the first song that you ever sang on stage, and how did you feel as you took those steps walking onto the stage?
I think the first song would it was a Tracy Chapman song, Give Me One Reason.
Okay.
I feel lucky that there were 4 vocalists that I sing with in my KPMG band, and so that was the very first band that I sang with. I was terrified. Uh, I did make sure I had a drink before I went on stage. And, but it was a really easy audience because it was a barbecue and everybody was as engaged with their table conversations as they were watching us. So, um, but I felt so energized after doing it that it's infectious. It's just an
Mm.
infectious feeling of satisfaction and like a drug. I wanted more. So I continued on my journey.
And here you are, we have this saying, but in reality, I can use it, and it really does apply to you. You're a rock star.
I do. I pose as a rock star all the time. It's great. And
Yes.
well, here's the other fun thing that happens when you're a rock star. When you actually do go on stage, you can dress up like a rock star. And so I had fun and I decided to go to the MAC makeup store. And so for every performance, I have no idea what I'm going to be wearing until the morning of. And I create these outfits that are so outrageously not an accountant or a tax professional at KPMG, with black lipstick and really heavy eyeliner and glitter and my hair frizzed out. It's so much fun.
Oh, okay. We have to come see you, by the way. Erica and I were talking about that. I want to see this Noel on stage that
Uh,
figures out your whole get up in the morning. So beautiful. Okay, very, very cool. So, Noel, as we start to wind down, I'm wondering if you could write a postcard to your former self. And maybe, we can go back 10 or 20 years, or we could go even back to Noel as you started to make this personal transformation and take that step into leadership. Your choice, but Noel of the past, what would you write on that postcard to yourself and why?
um, I would the sky's the limit. Just don't be afraid to ask for help. Maybe that would be the message. Uh, I've always I've always been pretty uninhibited with the things I set out to do. Like not I don't confine myself, if you know what I mean. So I
Mhm.
think that's why the sky's the limit would ring true. I mean, who would have thought 20 years ago that I would want to be a rock star? That I grew up an athlete, so music was probably the furthest thing from what I did, but here I am learning music as an older person, as a more mature person. And then asking for help would be I've always felt a strong sense of independence and wanting and needing to do things on my own in my own way. And I think the idea of being more collaborative and being okay not being having all the answers or being the strongest is okay. So sometimes that's a harder lesson to learn. I did have to learn
Yeah,
the hard way, in fact.
it's a great lesson. We can all learn from that, and remember to, asking for help is not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Well, Noelle, thank you so much for joining us. Sonal and I are thrilled to have you on the show, and we can definitely say you have the Como factor and let it shine.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really nice experience, and it's really been nice to kind of think back about my journey and take stock. And, you guys, Christine, you've been with me along part of
Mhm.
our leadership journey together, and I'm so excited to be part of the Como Factor. And Sanal, lovely to meet you.
Very inspiring, Noel. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening to the Como Factor podcast today. We hope you got something out of our time together. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please follow us on social media, share it with your community, and give us a like. That's all for today. And until next time, don't forget that you've got the Como Factor.
It's getting increasingly challenging to engage your stakeholders to help them better understand who you are, what your product and service offerings are, and what your call to action for them is. In fact, 4 times as many customers would rather watch a video about a product than reading about it. This is your opportunity to leverage video to showcase your products, services, engage your stakeholders, and give your customers, suppliers, and employees an easy way to understand your company. The Como Group has a full suite of media and branding offerings that can help you to better connect with your stakeholders. Connect with us at connect@thecomofactor.com to discover how we can help your organization shine through our media and branding offerings.